Hey friends, welcome back. I'm Ash.
I'm Elle.
We are Lovey Cosplay.
And this is Shit Cosplayers Say, and we are here with a very special guest today for our episode about points in cosplay contests, which you all have been requesting from us forever. So it's finally here. We would like to welcome Brittany to the show.
Hi, I'm Brittany.
Welcome.
So Brittany is also known as Ganoza Costuming. I can't believe all the amazing things that you've done. But would you like to tell our listeners a little bit more about you if they don't know you already?
Yeah, I am a cosplayer slash maker slash prop maker. I've been cosplaying for about, maybe 8 years. I judge a lot of costume contests. I compete a lot. And I like to make big, crazy things out of foam and sewing and all kinds of cool stuff like that. Oh, and people know me for my painting mostly.
If you have not seen these amazing painted props, you need to, because they are absolutely stunning. You're even painting right now.
I'm trying not to. I mean, no one can see what I'm doing right now, though. So I guess I could paint. Oh, that's great.
It's totally fine.
I don't have to lose time before Katsucon. I could just do it. Yay.
We get it. I have multiple times recorded and put beads and things on costumes. That's not unheard of.
Hey, there's
It's so relaxing just to do.
A lot of cosplayers out there that need to multitask while they're literally doing anything. So
it's true. I don't know. It helps some of us pay attention, so it's all good.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I can barely watch a movie without, having something in my lap that I'm working on. Pretty much have to.
Fidgeting definitely helps with concentration and
you
other pieces.
So more than welcome to paint. We brought Brittany in because Brittany's experience with contests is very different from ours. Ours is predominantly anime. Brittany has more experience with some larger contests. And we have discovered they function drastically different. So that's going to be kind of interesting to go over because every time someone's getting ready for competing, the question is always points. How do I get them? How do I get more of them? How do I lose them? Everybody's obsessed with these points. Like even working on 9 right now, even though we don't have plans to compete with them, my brain is still going like
competition mode.
Yeah, it's like, is it accurate enough? Are my choices good? Is this going to be clean enough? Are the judges going to care if I make this change? And like, we know because we're judges that we usually don't care.
It's so hard to turn that off though.
It is. It's very hard.
It's ridiculous. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, but it's so ingrained into like the competition culture that you're always worried about what these points might look like or what they might mean. So we're going to talk today about where the points matter, or in some cases, don't.
Yep.
Depending on your content.
Gasp.
Gasp.
It does matter. Do you guys do a lot of judging for like masquerade type things or only just anime conventions in general?
We have only basically judged anime conventions, which are a combination of performance and craftsmanship usually.
Okay. Gotcha.
Or itty bitty.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't know if you had to usually judge stage presence like aspect a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't really have to judge that because people don't usually do performances for the ones that I do. I'm almost solidly just craftsmanship.
9 times out of 10, anime conventions will try to hire a set of judges who can do both.
Yep.
Sometimes they don't.
Budget.
Sometimes budget. So sometimes you'll have a set that can do craftsmanship and a set that does performance, but typically they're going to look for someone who can do both just to it cuts costs. It makes things easier. Like I totally get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, most of our like major stage shows have all had both, which does also change how you score things.
Oh yeah.
If they are combining the scores. So like some will run them on completely separate tracks and some will combine the scores. If there are scores, which we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So
Elle, tell us, what are points in a costume contest?
Well, it really depends on the contest you're at. So most people assume that contests have a rubric like you get in school that designate certain elements with a numerical value so that the judges can help with their selections, but that hasn't been the case in our experience. I know, Brittany, yours is a little bit different.
I do costume contests that are at non-anime conventions. So basically the exact opposite of what you guys do. Like I said, they don't usually get judged on, like they'll get judged on their stage walk in a way, but it is a very small percentage of what they do. It's almost all craftsmanship. So I didn't make a list, but it's things like accuracy or representation of the costume and finishings and like what kind of disciplines did they use. I don't have a list in front of me, but things like that. Just a total rounded out costume is what we're looking for most of the time. It's got like a lot of good things. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't like come with a all sewing costume and win the thing, because that does happen. But
well, I think in a perfect world, they all would have something like that, like a rubric that kind of breaks it down a little bit. But unfortunately, in our experience in the Midwest, primarily with anime conventions, that has never been the case.
That's so crazy to me. That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. So in our experience, most cons just use like generic categories. Like it might just say accuracy and there might be like 1 through 5.
And then you're supposed to like circle it. It's really
fun. Well, sometimes they go way out of their way to make it super overcomplicated, and you literally have 5 minutes to figure out what their scores are, and you're trying to interpret with every person coming in what they meant by what they put on that paper. Sometimes that happens because they think about it, as opposed to just giving you something simple and then you being able to write a couple notes, which is what we all undoubtedly do anyway.
Well, right. In the end, that is what we end up doing.
Is
chicken scratch. What we're seeing.
Chicken scratch everywhere.
Well, because that's a good point, that the opposite isn't necessarily even better, where the rubric is so complicated.
Yeah, but I think having more rubric than less is still going to be better in your, in general.
Yeah. So like at my job, we have to do a certification to do job interviews because we have such a large public entity. And apparently there's lots of lawsuits and people get sued over this kind of stuff a lot. Well, for us, like a standard job interview has a rubric. It's broken down into sections, with each section worth a certain number of points. And then within that, like different like bullet points or questions that are worth however much a piece. But they give you an example. They'll say, if you're supposed to have like a bachelor's degree is kind of like the baseline. They'll say this type of bachelor's degree would give you, let's say, 3 points. But if you have a master's degree, you'll get 4 points. Or if you have a bachelor's degree, but not in quite this field, we might give you 2 points. So they give you like a generalized concept for each question. And it's up to you to kind of interpret it the way you want, but they give you examples. So you're not like, wow, I wonder what a 5 in finishing is supposed to be. Or what do they consider, a 2 in detail work?
When it comes to costume contests, though, like you don't have a baseline when you're starting. So like as a judge, things kind of end up a little bit wonky. Like if the first person that comes in has like a 8 out of 10 costume, or we'll just say like a 6 out of 10 costume, like pretty good, but not like amazing. And you still might put them really, really high on the list right at the beginning, just because they were the first ones in. And then like at the end, we kind of just determine where people land by looking at the placement in their scores. Like we don't just say, oh, this person got a 50 and this person got a 55, and those are the people that win. We just use it as like a baseline to get started with judging.
And the couple times that we tried, especially in the beginning, I know to use the rubrics that were given to us when they told us, they're like, well, we think this is a good idea, but we haven't tried it before. So let us know what you think. I know we tried it, and that kind of ended up that way, where maybe a couple people in the beginning were like, okay, this is where they're at. And then we just kind of used it as a base guideline along with our chicken scratch notes to be like, okay, now let's talk about these people a little bit more in depth. Now that we've kind of been able to numerically pick and choose a handful of picks.
Well, because your numbers also get weird when you're judging a contest that has multiple levels to it. So when they're divided by crafting ability and not subject matter, a 10 in novice is not the same as a 10 in masters, but you're given the same rubric to like judge them on. That can get very complicated. So like, unless the rubrics, at least in our experience, have something that assigns value to the numbers are very hard to use. So then the unfortunate part is when the attendees want their score, you're like, because we have had the experience multiple times now of cons making us give back our feedback forms to the contestants.
Oh my God, there's no way I would do that. Sometimes they ask and I'm like, sorry, but no, this is not going to help anyone.
Would you like to reiterate why we should not have to give those back?
Let's be honest here. We are writing down the dings. We're writing down the positives and we're writing down the dings. When you see a hem that does not look good, you have to write down that hem and it's going to say sloppy hem. It's not going to sound nice and it's not going to feel productive when you just have to like give yourself something to reference back to. Oh, that was this costume. They get one ding for that. And this person over here had none. You know, so those are not going to be nice pieces of paper. It's better, which is something that I want to pitch for future conventions. If you, as the judges, can like talk with the contestants after, maybe on like Sunday or something. And if they want constructive criticism, they can come in and you can tell them how they can improve, or maybe they don't need to improve, or this, that, or the other. But just getting that piece of paper is going to make them feel like garbage.
Preach.
So then what's happened both times for us is we've had to rewrite the information in a more like compliment sandwich way.
Yes. Creative use of materials.
Yes, because you think those papers are just for you. Like, come on.
Yeah. So the first time it happened to us, they actually didn't tell us they were going to be giving them back.
Until after the contest.
Did they get them without you like being able to edit them?
So, no. But we had to spend 5 hours rewriting 100 sheets.
Oh no!
To have no one pick them up.
No,
not one person picked them up.
So when they ask, just don't say yes. Don't say. It's better if you can just talk with the person. If there's going to be anything at all, like that's just going to be way better.
But I always, because they want to know, like, even when we have ones where like there are no numbers, there's nothing, it's a blank piece of paper. They're like, could you just tell me what my score was? And I'm like, I can't.
That's not a thing. That was not a thing in this contest.
Especially
you came in 50 out of 60. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. That's not going to give you anything.
Right. Especially in these contests where the ability level is so vast.
Oh,
so
yeah.
When you're judging something that isn't, Crown or Fan Expo or like, Anime Expo or something where it's vetted, you're going to have everywhere from someone who is doing the bare minimum, like just learned how to sew, to someone who may have been doing this for 20 years. And I'm supposed to compare them all together.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very reasonable. I mean, there's not much you can do there.
So the whole tier system of anime conventions does make it a little bit more complicated because your contestants are not as close in ability as some of these other larger conventions. You're obviously going to expect less from a novice than a master. So then you have to weigh that into the numbers that don't matter, and it gets chaotic.
I do like the feedback sessions that we've been able to participate in. And we usually give out like our business cards to people and say, hey, if you can't catch us, send us a message in the next like 2 weeks on social media and we'll try to give you any con crits that we can. And I know we've done them directly after the masquerade and then the next day. And I always feel like everybody's a little more level headed the next day. And they seem to be way more productive the day after than immediately following the show when everybody's emotions and tensions are super high.
Yep. End of the day.
Yeah, I don't like getting the contestants right after the contest because they're upset. And so anything I tell them isn't going to be received well because they didn't win, they're upset. So, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just how it rolls. But really, rubric or not, it's all still going to come down to what you actually did. I mean, in the end of it all.
Yep.
Like, it comes down to our chicken scratch plus whatever system they give you.
Yep.
So I know, Brittany, you've done a lot more organized contests. Can you speak about how some of the contests that have had rubrics for you have worked?
Usually they work out pretty well. At this point, I feel like I'm starting to master exactly how I feel about each particular rubric and / costume contest in general. Like, I want it to go a very specific way from beginning to end. Like, I need Like I need these 5 things to vote on, and I need a place to write in my rubric and stuff like that. And usually they're pretty decent, but like, you know, the 5-minute times can be kind of crazy, like as far as rubrics go, because you want to write everything down. And when it comes to build books, that can get kind of out of control if you don't have time directly after to look at them. Like you need to be looking at them during that time. Unfortunately, a lot of the time we won't have extra time to check that out. I know that there's a lot of people who need to get back to their booths. I experienced that at the last 2 cons that I went to, where I personally don't like boothing. Like I just don't get anything out of it. I don't have anything to sell. I don't care. But
same.
The people who I judge with usually have booths, and they're just like running out of there as quick as they can. And it's not their fault, because that's like what they're hired to do. That's what they're supposed to do. But the convention they're not always right on top of it as far as like narrowing down all the scores and stuff, which to me is kind of a no-brainer. That's just what I like. You just kind of, wherever they land on the scale, number 100, number, 105, 120, put them all on a list so we can narrow them down as quick as we can. And we'll look at their build books right at the end there, just before making final deliberations. Rubrics are great. I like rubrics a lot. They're really good. If I didn't have one, I would be lost. That's what it comes down to.
I do really like that for Crown this year, they posted the rubric.
Yeah. Yep.
So that you knew. And I mean, their rubric is a little extensive.
It is. Like I did it 2020. That was the year that I judged. It was insanity all day long. Like that was the most insane contest I've ever judged by far. It was so crazy. Like people were butt up against each other with all their times. We had a 10-minute break right in the middle. It was crazy. That's all I have to say. It was just crazy. As a judge, it was crazy. Like I know how high everybody's tensions are as cosplayers, because I've done it a bunch of times, but like, dang.
Well, and having to judge between so many very talented
amazing
people is
amazing costumes. Oh my God. It's amazing. Like every single thing that comes in is amazing, because they already have this whole process of like picking out who's going to be in it. And there's tons of people who try out. So every category is super stacked. It was just so insane choosing between like 5 8 out of 10 costumes, 9 out of 10 costumes. Which one's the best out of people who are doing 9 out of 10 costumes? It's like, it was so hard. I wouldn't take it back. It was awesome. It was crazy though. I tell you what.
A wild ride for sure.
Yeah.
And now they do not give you your scoring sheets back from Crown, do they?
You wouldn't want it anyway, because it is literally chicken scratch. Like it, yeah, literally. You don't want it back anyway.
We didn't get ours back from internationals either. Like we've told cons, but we're like, no, they don't give them back.
Yeah, that's for the best. You don't need those back.
They don't need them back. It's not a thing.
They really don't. If they want anything, they can ask like the judges.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think.
Yeah. We will tell you nicely what you need to know, and
yeah.
Yeah. It's all good. Just don't ask me how many points you got, because I probably don't know.
You're like, that was yesterday. I don't remember yesterday.
Oh yeah,
it went by too fast.
When you're completely fried and you just have no idea what you did for that entire day. Like, yeah.
Dude, I was so fried at the end of that contest. Like, I couldn't even tell you anything. Like, after the next day, there's just no way.
I will say the one thing that I do like about them putting out the rubric, and I've seen a couple other cons do it too, but it doesn't happen nearly as often as I think it should, is just the transparency. I mean, we always tell people, read the rules. This kind of tells you, like, these are what we're looking for. These are the things that we find important in this particular contest. And I think that's really good information.
I will say, though, it does, in my experience, it does matter who your judges are too.
Oh, 1000%.
Absolutely. It does matter. Like there's going to be different, like I've done all kinds of contests, a lot of competing and stuff. And sometimes you'll have people who don't know what a cosplay is. Basically, And then sometimes you'll have people who are great at sewing, and sometimes you'll have people who are on TV and they literally don't know anything about it, but they're here and they're doing this thing, and you put all this time and effort into it, and they literally do not know how to judge you. So sometimes contests can be unfair in that way too.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
I've experienced, yes.
Yeah, we've had that experience where it's like, I know that you're famous, but you really shouldn't be judging us right now.
Yeah. And people who compete a lot, you guys, me, like we have to pick and choose what contests we do, because you will end up disappointed and mad and angry that you didn't place, or you didn't feel like you were heard or seen, or people who didn't make as good of a costume as you know that you did place higher than you, when you knew that your skill level might have been above them, but they made something that was more recognizable. And that does happen a lot, and it's unfortunate, but that's why you have to vet your contests.
Else I'm making some facial expressions, and I know exactly what contest that
exactly what contest I'm thinking of right now.
Let's see.
We're not going to say.
Oh, you have a Chewbacca story too?
Let's see.
Yes,
big and flashy, super popular. One of our judges picked all their faves and their favorite series, and then the other judge played on their phone the entire time. So
wow, yeah, that's super cool. Super cool.
We don't have PTSD.
Maybe we just take this too seriously. I think that a lot. I'm like sitting there like doing my thing, and I'm like, I think I might be taking this too seriously.
I mean, asking for a little respect isn't, I think,
it's
serious.
True. It's true. It's just funny the way people like maybe other judges like seem to be so nonchalant about something that we care so much about.
Yeah.
And I think that's what probably makes us good judges, because we care.
Oh, absolutely.
And because we do it ourselves, we know how much it matters to these people.
Absolutely. I mean, we love to do it because we want to keep people competing. We don't want the pool to peter out or anything. We got to get new people in. So
yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've said to myself or seen other people be like, never coming back to this contest, whatever the contest is. Mostly ones that I've competed in that were just very poorly run, or it seemed like they didn't care about their contest. So one of the conventions that I've competed in it, and then after the time I competed in it, I was like, I'm never competing in this again. And then I had friends that competed in it, and they love doing it because it's their convention. So I am just there to support them, and I don't compete in it because I know better. Gen Con's costume contest is freaking absurd. It's run by a bunch of people who I think are in the old guard of costuming.
Oh no.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
Dragon Con has the exact same problem, which is really too bad, because Dragon Con is one of the best conventions in the US, but they have the old guard of costumers that only like a certain thing and show favorites. That's more Dragon Con. But Gen Con's is particularly awful, and they really, really don't care who they put in what position, like first, second, third, best sewing, best blah, 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 blah. They really don't care. And I just see people time and time again that I've been to it to watch it, where people have just been so miscategorized. I'm like, I can see these costumes. I know better. So I just don't understand sometimes with some of these competitions. And I really don't like the old guard of costume contests too. It's what I mean by that is like the older costume, the older convention crowd. That's what I mean. Like the stage people that did like Broadway, well, not Broadway, but like, you know what you guys know what I mean.
We got you. The theater people.
Yes, theater people. They judge things differently, and it's not necessarily a good thing. And it does not, almost always, they don't even really respect cosplay. That's the other thing. They don't like cosplay. They like costuming. And what we're doing is cosplay. So it just doesn't make sense that type of costume contest is able to be so prevalent, especially at places like Dragon Con, which it bothers the crap out of me.
There are so many different kinds of costuming and sewing, and just because you are a costumer doesn't mean that you're a great person to judge a cosplayer, because it's a completely different ball game. Like, we make stuff completely differently from like a theater professional who's a costumer.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's not remotely the same. So
yeah.
But we see that a lot. That does happen where they'll bring people in from like the local theater and that kind of stuff.
And I don't know. And then they always keep the same people on too. Like for Gen Con, they always keep the same people and they love running it. But then they always place everybody super weird and people who should place don't. And it just feels crappy because you know that it's just a bunch of cosplayers.
We unfortunately do know.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly what you mean. Which is why it's important that you choose judges who can be well-rounded and be able to look at everything with or without a rubric, because if you don't have that, then things are going to get missed.
Also, 10 out of 10 for having judges that care. I will stand on that soapbox all day long.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah.
I mean, we've mentioned this before in our judging episodes, but when we were picking judges for contests, that was almost more important to us than how much experience you had. Because
I just want people who care.
We just want you to care. Respect
if you
contestants.
Care and you can be respectful and professional, like way more likely than somebody who's skilled but has a shitty attitude.
Yeah. Oh, I will say, Yaya Han is a amazing judge. Anything I've ever been judged in or seen her judge, she's always done such an amazing job. So it's a cool example of somebody who's like higher up there that actually does a really, really good job, in my opinion.
We like Yaya.
I've only met her like
her
once or twice, but she always just seems like such a sweetheart.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So whether you have a rubric or not, there are some things that we're kind of always looking for. The one that throws people off a lot is accuracy and what that may or may not mean. And when we say accuracy, we're not talking about your body shape, your skin color. That's not what we should be looking at.
Nah.
I can't say that there aren't judges who do that. There probably
I know
are.
that people from other countries are like costume contests in other countries are a little bit more picky about that, which I think is strange, but like they will get weird about if you're not the right body shape or skin color or whatever. I just think that's really strange, but it's a different culture there too. So I guess I can't really judge.
We have been warned when we go to Spain that they pay a lot of attention to some things that we don't, like makeup. They're like really, really into makeup and like, sure more of like your overall appearance too. So we've been given a heads up.
Well, that's good.
But typically we're just trying to look at how well does your costume flow with the source material you're giving us.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. That doesn't mean you can't like make changes because you need to make changes. But
yes,
like,
accuracy for me has kind of been changing recently. It's not just, did you do this exactly the way it looks in the picture? It's, I'm okay with interpretation. It seems to be like it should be accuracy or a quality of interpretation, because there are some things that you're going to have to change if you're, a size 20 when the character is a size 2. Like things are going to have to change. And if it's for like a positive reason, like sometimes you'll get points for maybe taking that really, really plain fabric and like jazzing it up a little by using like a cool texture or something like that, even though it obviously just called for like a basic cotton. Like things like that can be a positive thing. It doesn't have to just be, I did this exactly the way it looks. I am Sailor Moon.
I am Sailor Moon. It's almost more fidelity to your source material. Like, how are you honoring your source material?
Yes, I would say so.
And I like that.
Yes, I think it's becoming more prevalent, especially since more people are doing original designs, and they can't always be accurate if you don't have a design. I can't tell you how many people who came to the last two costume contests I did who did original designs, and we had an accuracy category, but we judged it on interpretation of design versus accuracy for those.
I mean, I kind of like that it's going that way because I like making changes because they aesthetically please me.
Also, it's more artistic too, which is cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, I have to make a lot of adjustments usually for fit and whatnot anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, same.
I mean, that's pretty common. Because fit, we really just care about how does it fit your body. Like, you need to alter it to fit, please do.
Did you forget to put boning in it? Oof. Sometimes I see things like that and I'm like, oh no, if you just put like 2 boning channels in there, it would have made all the difference.
Boning is one of those things that until I needed it for a costume, I didn't realize how amazing it is. And now I put it in literally everything.
Anything that calls for it.
I'm like, this needs boning.
This needs boning. I feel like horsehair is the same way. You're like, until you use it, you're like, oh.
I did go through an obsession with horsehair for a while.
I feel like I could if I had one specific project I needed it for. I've never needed to use it. So I feel like I'd probably get there. I'd be like, oh, well, I could use this on all of these other projects. What the heck?
So a lot of times you'll see a category that says like use of technique, which can mean a lot of things. The new thing is really to mix it together, where you're not coming in with one category, but kind of using a bunch of different types of techniques. But obviously you want to keep in mind that you want to pick things you're confident in, because if you're not confident in the execution, it's not going to help you.
I have a friend, I won't mention any names, but they made an amazing costume and they mostly do sewing things, like mastery of sewing. And they decided to branch out and do shoes, but with Warbler and foam and I don't know, I think there was rhinestones and stuff in there. And ultimately they decided not to wear them because they didn't know the materials very well. They made the thing, but first of all, they weren't comfortable. But second of all, they were breaking down over wearing them. And they decided that it was a detriment to their costume versus a positive. So just because you decide to make something that's out of your comfort zone, sometimes it doesn't always pan out, and you should just know when to throw in the towel, because you could get a 10 out of 10 on your costume, but then you have some really ugly shoes. And then now your costume is an 8 out of 10. So you have to know when not to include something as well.
It also kind of ties into the difficulty of your design, because that will typically be considered, but it's also understanding that you need to pick a design within your difficulty level too.
Yes.
You will see this with a lot of newer cosplayers, is they'll jump to like these really complicated designs that they are not ready to execute. But they think because the design is so complicated that that's automatically going to get them more points.
Well, because the craft store threw up on my costume. So look at all these techniques I used.
Have you guys ever had to judge multiple of one costume and then somebody comes to you afterward asking why they didn't place when one of the other ones did?
Yes.
That's such an awkward conversation, but I'm kind of like,
It's a frequent occurrence in anime conventions.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Never mind.
Frequent. Like you will have more than one link. It will happen. Yeah. Like you're gonna have more than one Disney princess.
So eventually someone's gonna come to you and be like, so that link placed and I didn't. What hell? What hell?
Yep.
Yeah,
we've been there. It's always hard when the young ones come up and ask you about this and they're like, but my costume, I did all these things. And I'm like,
I worked so hard.
And I'm like, I know, honey, but so did everybody else. But
we all did. I'm sorry.
I put thousands of rhinestones on it. I know, but your seams weren't finished.
It's like, I'm sorry.
More stuff isn't going to save you.
Yeah.
Because execution matters.
Yes, execution is like number one, matters top absolute most. Doesn't matter if your costume has every single time or every single kind of discipline on it. If you don't execute it well,
I just want to know if it's clean.
Yes, cleanliness. When I write clean on a piece of paper, that's when you know that you're doing a good job.
Yeah,
it's like so clean.
And if you're gonna make some of those artistic changes, make sure they actually fit with the rest of the design.
Yes. Please.
Oh yeah.
Don't just throw something on there so you could say that you threw it on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens on occasion. Actually, frequently. That happens frequently.
Yep.
What am I talking about?
Sometimes less is more.
Sometimes less is more. And you know what? I will pick a super clean costume any day of the week over something that somebody threw the kitchen sink at it, but it's not clean enough. So cleanliness is king.
And if you did do a beautiful job at finishing your scenes we can't see, please put them in your work in progress book because we want to.
Or try to show us. Try to show us.
Yeah.
Try your dangest.
I get you can't show us the inside of your corset, but we'd love to know that you did beautiful flat seams that you put your boning into.
Yes, put it in the book. Also, can we talk about build books a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about anything we want to.
Awesome. It's our show.
It's our show. We can talk about whatever we want.
I do what I
want. As far as, do you guys get a lot of build books when you judge?
From masters?
Not usually very big ones. Usually it's masters. Occasionally you'll have a novice come in with like an entire like whip book, and I'm so proud of them. Sometimes people bring them on their phones. It just kind of depends. But not as many with the youngins, which is usually what we get.
It's funny because if people know us and they know we're judging, they will bring them because they know us and they know we like them. So they'll be like, Lavi Cosplay likes work in progress books, so I'm going to do one.
Nice.
That has happened.
Extra points.
The contest that I do, we like exclusively, like it almost 100% of the time requires build books. So that ends up being a thing that everybody provides usually. But I think I figured out exactly the right format for what's going to be good for a build book. And it's as little words as possible because we don't have time to read. We can flip through pictures. You don't have to put every single picture of your entire work in progress. You just have to show like maybe beginning, middle, end. Or if there's a particularly hard process, put extra pictures for that. But also don't bring 25 pages. If you can put 5 pictures on one page, 6 pictures on one page or something, and then put a couple of words in to say, I don't know, double hemmed this, or, 500 chain mails, like just very simple, easy. We can look through it in like 1 minute. If you can do that, that is going to be so good for you, because then we're going to be able to articulate everything in our brains and be able to be like, oh, I know exactly what this person did beginning to end. And you have to also remember that the judges do know this stuff. They know sewing. They know good judges. They know sewing. They know foam smithing. They know 3D printing. They know the basics of these things at the very least. And usually they know more. So you can assume that they can fill in the blanks for, I hemmed this, they can fill in those blanks. So if you just show like the work in progress, 3-4 pictures, we're going to be able to know what's going on. So that's what I like in a build book. Clear, concise, get it done. Not a lot of words. More words is bad.
Bullet points.
Words are bad.
Words are bad. Mostly pictures, and almost no words. That's what works best for me anyway.
We don't have time to read the words.
No, we don't. If we can look at pictures and you can put, 3 to 4 descriptor words saying what's happening, we can see that. But don't put the words really tiny. It's probably better that you put them a little bigger, or even write them in. Who cares? Like, you'll get it. I know people usually have a lot of like questions about build books and stuff, but what has worked best for me in the past.
They are starting to become required by anime conventions. And for us, that also has a lot to do with the fact that you're more likely to get people cheating. So the work in progress book helps you know if they really made it.
True. I've had a couple recently where like people ended up being at the top and there was just not enough pictures for me to say definitively without a doubt that they made the thing. And I absolutely hate being in that position. Usually like we just assume the benefit of the doubt. Like we'll just give it to them because they provided enough. But you still wonder as a judge, like if people really made everything. And I think as a contestant, you need to at least try to show that you made the thing. At the very least.
Please show us that you made the thing.
Yes.
Please.
That's half of the reason for the build book. One is that we see how you made it, and the other half is making sure that you made it.
Well, and I think that's another reason why you said it's good to do like a beginning, a middle, and an end for certain areas, because like if Elle shows a picture of her in her mock-up for her bodice and it vaguely resembles the finished piece, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, Elle did a mock-up for this bodice. Clearly she sewed it. Yep. Or it was at least present for a fitting.
Well, sometimes you just see people saying, oh, I 3D modeled this entire thing and then sanded it, finished it, put it on my body, whatever. But then you only see the part where they're sanding and you see the part where they spray paint the thing. And you're like, did they buy this model from somebody and then just try to pass it off as their own work? Like, I don't know.
I mean, they make screen caps. You could do screen caps of yourself in the modeling process.
I agree. I like to do that because I only just started modeling recently. So I've been, I'll like take a picture of the screen as I'm working on it.
I also have
the best I got.
I've also noticed that some contests require that if you are going to submit something that you claim you 3D modeled, you have to model your maker's imprint into it so that like your signature or like your cosplay name or whatever actually comes out as part of the print. So that there's no like, obviously you're not going to finish around that because you want them to be able to read your name, but that way you can prove that you did it.
Not a bad idea. Can you edit 3D prints if I were to buy a print off of like Shapeways or something, would I be able to edit it and put my own stamp on it or no? Are they like locked?
You probably can.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you can do that, then like, does it even matter?
I guess if they didn't know how to 3D print at all, they wouldn't be able to do it though.
Right.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's a hard, seeing the pictures of the process is obviously the best way to know because
right.
You could have a friend do it or, like there's a lot of ways around it. So take photos when you work, friends. I know it's hard.
Take your photos.
But if you ever think you might compete with the costume you're working on, please take photos.
You don't even have to take a buttload. Just take like, I don't know, you're in the middle of painting something. Just take a picture showing that you are the one painting it, It doesn't have to be anything fancy even. They don't have to be super 4K photos or anything like that. They just need to be there.
They don't need to be like Instagram ready. It's all good.
No, they don't.
We just want to see how you made the thing.
Yes.
That's it. Well, and then a couple other categories that sometimes get considered depending on what type of contest you're in is the movement and wearability of your costume and then your stage presentation. So we've actually had contests judge on whether or not you can physically move because there are you know what costumes I'm talking about.
I know exactly
all the time where they legit cannot move. Like,
yeah, I agree. I've seen that at crowns even. Like people will bring stuff that they literally cannot move in. Like they can't even get on stage. Well, I understand not being able to get on stage.
Yeah.
That's the thing sometimes. You have wheels, you got this, that, or the other. I get it. But then they can't even move across the stage by themselves. And I'm like, then that's not really a costume, is it?
It's a statue that you wear.
Yeah, you're a statue. You're a pretty statue, but you're a pretty statue.
So I definitely have been a part of contests both as a contestant and as a judge where that's been taken into consideration, especially if you're trying to like break a tie or something, because that's part of the construction is you're being able to move.
Absolutely. That's something I consider wholeheartedly. Like if you can't move in a costume, like that's a huge ding for me. Yeah. Like if you have two people that made 10 out of 10 costumes, but one of them can't move, you know who's going to win.
Well, and as a maker, like I wouldn't want to make something that I can't wear and walk around in.
Same. I couldn't do
am
that.
I gonna just like hang it like in the corner of my craft room and it can just live there forever as a piece of art? Like what's the point?
Yeah, I don't know.
Personally, I won't make anything I can't wear for less than like 5 hours. I can't do it. If I can't wear it for at least 5 hours, I'm kind of like, what's even the point? Yeah, that's just a me thing. I know there's plenty of people that will make costumes they can only wear for 1 hour, and they're usually like larger than life type category, like the really, really giant costumes that they can only wear for an hour. But that's just not me. I need to be able to wear it. If I can't wear it, then like, what's the point of me even having it?
So speaking of, how do you choose a cosplay for a contest? I'm very curious because
such a loaded question.
Well, because your costumes vary quite a bit in like series and different complexities, and I'm just curious how you make your choices.
For competition specifically?
Yes.
I think we probably are all in about the same place when it comes to that. You have to figure out at the very least, something you like. you have to start with something that you like. Your heart won't be as in it if you don't find something you like. I like Pokemon, so I made a Pokemon costume. I like World of Warcraft, so I made a World of Warcraft costume. I just can't be like, oh, there's Monster Hunter, I'm going to make a Monster Hunter costume. Personally, I just can't do it. I know tons of people who have no problem with doing it, but I cannot get into it without at least that one thing. So that's where I start. That's why I've done a lot of World of Warcraft stuff, because I used to play World of Warcraft quite a bit. So I was like, this is a good place to make costumes from. I'll just stick with this. So that's where I start. And then I also try and figure out the level of complexity within the costume that is going to win me a competition. Like, I'm not going to lie, I've done a lot of competitions and I kind of have a feel for generally what is going to place. Because once you do enough of them, you just kind of know. And I'm sure you guys know. It's not being boastful. It's just knowing your competition once you get to a certain point. So you can see that it has this many amounts of things or talents or props or this, that, or the other in it that makes up a complicated enough costume to beat something else. So if you can compare, like for me, I do big armor things. I do sewing stuff usually. And I usually mix it all together. I like doing multidisciplinary stuff. If you can choose something with a lot of that and can beat another thing that is of equal amounts of things like that, and you like it, like that's going to be a really good contender for a costume. So right now I'm working on my next world costume. So like it took a long time to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, because you have to be very careful about what you're going to choose for a world competition costume, because you have to have enough disciplines. You got to have mastery of the skill. You got to have a lot of time in it, craziness, like extra gizmos and different things like that. It is really hard to choose a costume for a world competition. So you stew on it for probably like a good 4 to 8 months, just trying to figure out what costume you're going to do that's got enough crazy components that you're comfortable with doing and know you can show mastery in for that like big crazy costume. So does all that make sense? Sort of?
It does.
Well,
Okay.
and I really like that you pointed out that you have to like something in order to really put your full heart into it. And I think especially as judges, we can tell who's really passionate about their costume and the character, the design, or the source material, what have you. There's definitely a difference in the attitude when people walk in the room, and that passion is just contagious.
Yeah, so that's definitely an important part. Plenty of people do amazing costumes without having that reference material, but I really, really feel like if you want to do the best that you can do, choosing something that you're going to like to start is just going to help you out. It's going to help you on the process. Anything to add?
That's kind of how we do it too. So
yeah, you just pick the thing you know you can master. That's crazy is the next thing, you know. Bigger, better, more amazing, always. That's how you choose.
That is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
So right now I'm working on a Breath of the Wild costume. It is not a competition costume, but I could probably compete in it. Probably not at like a world competition, but I just started playing Breath of the Wild and I freaking love it. Yes, it was 3 years too late, but like, don't judge me. And I picked a sweet costume and I'm like, you know what? I could probably compete in this because I pretty much only make stuff. Unless they're super easy, I pretty much only make stuff that I can compete in at least somewhere. It gives me that extra motivation to make the thing. Yeah. It's like covered in lights and like it has my fun paint job and stuff. And plus I love it and I can talk to people about it when they walk up to me. So that's cool. And the new next game's coming out soon. So that makes me feel good. So yeah, that's how I chose
right on time. Not too late.
Yes,
never
not too late.
No,
never. So apparently they've been saying for a while that there's gonna like this year is gonna be the year it's gonna come out. Apparently that's been said multiple years in a row. So
well,
kind of like the Kingdom Hearts problem. Right? Hopefully it's this year.
Thanks for giving us your knowledge on how you choose a costume. We get that asked a lot, and
yeah,
we don't have a different answer either.
Yeah.
But as we expected, we still have more to talk about. And I know that you all know our episodes are about 45 minutes. So we're going to keep talking, but we're going to split this up. So you have to wait till the following download to get part 2.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Too late.
But in part 2, we will finally cover the myth of the extra points.
Dun, dun, dun.
That everyone is so concerned about. But thanks for joining us, Brittany.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to close out, but the 3 of us will be back in 2 weeks for part 2.
Again, I'm Ash.
I'm Elle.
We are Lovey Cosplay.
And this is Shit Cosplayers Say. You've been listening to Shit Cosplayers Say, an LVC production. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Podcast SCS. Our website is lavicosplay.com. Have a fun, crazy con or cosplay-related story, absurd cosplay question, or just something in general to share with us? Email us at podcastscs@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, just because you can doesn't mean you should.